One experiment, that's all it took to make history. In 1988, a self-replicating program known as the Morris worm is spread across the early internet. And it wasn't meant to cause damage, it was a curious exploration of network behavior, some might say, but it ended up revealing just how vulnerable systems were. So let's break down how this simple program led to the new era of cybersecurity that we all inhabit today. To understand the impact, you have to remember, back in 1988, the internet was very small. It isn't the internet that we know today. It was mostly academic and, in many ways, completely experimental. And security necessarily wasn't the top priority, if a priority at all, because no one expected a program like this to emerge. But then let's go over to Cornell. Robert Tappan Morris, a Cornell grad student, wanted to test a simple idea. How far and how fast could a self-replicating program spread? That's right, a worm. He built a worm that could copy itself onto Unix machines using two key services. That's the thing, he exploited two services, and one thing in particular. He had sendmail and finger. And I love finger. I've made another video about finger, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But the key mechanism is that he used sendmail and a debug mode within that to allow remote execution of commands. And at the time, sendmail was a widely used mail service on early Unix systems. And this worm that he created used this feature to propagate across connected systems. That's right, the early internet. But the second part, after making that key mechanism work, was to use the finger command. Now, the finger command, I made another video about this, is a forgotten command in many ways. A lot of people who have been using Linux and Unix for a long time have lots of fond memories of the finger command, but essentially this was a command that allowed you to get information about users on a system. And the worm, the Morris worm, leveraged a buffer overflow in finger to execute remote code and spread. So elegant, incredibly clever stuff. But this was the problem, the unexpected spread. Morris never intended for his worm to cause harm. But due to a design flaw, the programmer infected and reinfected the same machines multiple times. Imagine that, kept attacking the same machines over and over and over again, overwhelming systems and causing massive slowdowns. Universities, research labs, and government networks, and that's the big issue there, I suppose, saw their systems grind to a halt. Imagine that. 10% of the internet slow to a crawl in hours. Imagine that today. Imagine you saw a headline that 10% of the internet was brought down. It would be hard to fathom. But back in 1988, this is exactly what he did on that burgeoning network of the internet. Now, the Morris worm wasn't a malicious attack. It was an experiment that revealed fundamental weaknesses in network security. It sparked a new era in many ways and a new awareness of additional vulnerabilities. And it did lead to lots of major changes in how systems were protected. Obviously, some of the big changes, we had the birth of the first ever computer emergency response team. Unix systems were improved. Security was upgraded to remove debug modes in production. These types of vulnerabilities, obviously, they're not great, depending on your perspective. And then I'd say in many ways, the concept of ethical hacking and responsible disclosure, it became born out of this and then widely accepted. So there we go, one simple experiment, one unexpected outcome, and a new chapter in cybersecurity history. The Morris worm wasn't just a program, it's kind of a wake-up call that shaped the way that we secure our systems today. And, Robert Morris, he also paid the price for this. It was a small experiment which ended up leading to have a really large effect on his life. So you can read more into that if you're intrigued by that. But there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this video and a trip down memory lane. And just going to show that how with a simple command and an understanding of how it works, you can essentially bring down 10% of the internet. That's how it worked back in the 80s anyway. I'm not sure quite the same today, but it's so fascinating to see how pioneers and people who are willing to dig deep and explore these early systems were able to have such lasting impacts that are still, they're affecting the way that we navigate and use computers and systems today. You have to bear in mind these pioneers in the early days, especially early hackers, a lot of the things that they explored and tested and found have had ripples through time into the way that systems are protected and the way that people view hacking today. That's why we have the idea of ethical hacking and black hat hacking, depending on your perspective and what you're trying to do. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.